right, I think we're on. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Rachel, and I'm on the social impact team at Unity Technologies. Unity is the world's leading platform for creating interactive, real-time 3D content. And at Unity, we believe that the world is a fundamentally better place with more creators in it, and creators of all backgrounds from all walks of life. But achieving this vision requires opening up pathways for economic opportunity. Today, we're coming together to talk about creating that more equitable and inclusive future. And I'm really excited to bring together this group of practitioners who each bring different paths and perspectives to expanding economic opportunity. Christian, Fereshteh, Amadou, and Eleanor are entrepreneurs who offer a global perspective in how to prepare some of the most underrepresented and vulnerable learners for high demand jobs. Their companies, which are based in Colombia, Afghanistan, Ethiopia, and the US, train learners for technical jobs and aim to provide that equal opportunity. And their approaches and organizations are all linked in this mission, but distinct. So today we'll start by having the panelists introduce themselves and share the pivotal moment or story when they decided to become an entrepreneur in this space. We'll kick us off, Amadou.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Gabeya. It's a talent infrastructure company out of Africa, the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia, to kind of help you visualize it. So the aha moment was really when I wanted to make sure I participate into a future of Africa that I would want to live in, and also be able to set out, a few sort of lights into making Africa more competitive. One of the things that keeps me at night is what would Africa look like in 50 years from now? And I have an idea what I want it to look like, but then it's like, okay, what am I going to do to participate to make that happen? So one of the things that I've looked at as I spend a lot that these sort of all the continents, whether it's Asia or Europe, they've sort of laid out a foundation maybe 100 years ago. Let's pick Asia in particular. You take China or India. Each of them are very sort of structured the way they wanted to evolve into an IT hub and a manufacturing hub, right? So India wanted to be really the IT hub that serves the world. And it's not an accident today that if you look at all the great companies in the US, some of them are run by Indians or, reinforced by Indian workers. And if you look at China, some of the great products we admire in the US are made in China. So then I ask myself, well, what is Africa contributing in that particular piece? And they've done it the same way I'm thinking we can do it, which is looking at talent, making sure they upskill to have the right skills, the right mindset, the right competitive drive to be able to sort of build out products and services for clients in Africa, as well as the rest of the world. So this talent company is pretty much saying, whatever business you have in Africa and you go into digital, we should be able to help you by providing you the best talent possible. And then eventually, once we become this sort of landmark company in Africa, we should be able to, offer these services out to the world and make Africa a little bit more competitive. So that's about me.
Amadou. Eleanor.
Thanks, Rachel. Nice to be here today. So I'm CEO and co-founder at PathStream, and what we do is we're an upskilling engine for the modern economy digital skills jobs of the future, and we're based in the US. The aha moment for me was working with a few individuals who were formerly incarcerated, had just come out and were sort of re-entering back into society, and were looking for an opportunity to find a career and to really get their life back on the track that they envisioned for themselves. And I had one particular friend from that experience who I went with him to every single job training company we could find in the Bay Area, all the community colleges, the workforce boards, et cetera. And I was just astounded to find that there wasn't a single program not one program that could possibly do this job and was accessible, affordable, efficient to get him into an opportunity that he would be excited about. He was a particularly charismatic individual and was interested in maybe a sales career. And so I took that learning and decided that I would work with leading technology companies like Unity and some of our other partners in order to build digital skills curriculum, because we believe that the future of jobs are going to require more of these skill sets. And so many people are left out of those opportunities because potentially they don't have the right college pedigree, or they don't have the access to the training on the types of software platforms that are used in like the best entry-level jobs. And so we work with the higher education system. We work with about 35 colleges and universities across the country in order to bring access to 6-month career training programs and help place people in jobs. So excited to be here today.
Powerful. Thank you. Fereshteh.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, everyone. I'm Fereshteh Forough. I'm from Afghanistan. I was born as a refugee in Iran during the Soviet invasion to Afghanistan. And early 2002, 1 year after the fall of Taliban, my parents and we moved to Herat, Afghanistan, where I got my bachelor in computer science. And then I received a scholarship. I went to Germany and I received my master's. So for me, I think the aha moment, and it's mainly about my life story, because being born as a refugee, I faced a lot of discriminations and being denied to access education. So it was always with me to think about that education is the fundamental and basic human rights, and no one should be discriminated based on their indifferences. So it was always with me to give back to my community. But also I see the entrepreneurship in my mom growing up. As a refugee, she had to learn how to stitch and make dresses. So by selling the clothing, she could bring money and income to the family, buying us school supplies, and she invested in the girls' education. So I learned that great things can start with empty hands, and it doesn't matter where you are or what you have. It's just most important to believe in yourself. So I kept it with myself always. And certainly being a woman in Afghanistan, pursuing technology and being a professor, teaching computer science, I faced a lot of backlashes and threats because I was vocal. I was kind of like not the typical woman in the traditional community. So I think for me, those were the reasons to think about, well, there should be a way that I change this situation for women and provide equal access and resources for them, not only to education, but also employment and workforce.
Incredible. Thank you, Fereshteh. Christian.
Well, thanks, Rachel, for having me. Christian van der Hernst, co-founder of Platzi. We do online education effective, and our biggest market right now is Latin America. And it also has to do a lot with my life story. I was born and raised in Guatemala, and I learned tech through the internet. I had access to the internet since the early beginnings, and I was always just browsing online forums. And one day I decided, how about some online forums for Latin America? What if we build this kind of communities and we start creating the same environments where you learn tech in the US, in the world, and we establish something for the Hispanic market. Platzi was born almost 10 years ago with my co-founder, Freddy Vega. He's from Colombia. And we were basically competitors building online communities. And we realized that doing effective online education was super important for Latin America. What do we mean with effective? Well, first of all, we believe that in Latin America, people don't have the time to really learn or to have a formal education. Some people don't have the money, the resources. And more importantly, people don't have the attention span. You get distracted. You go online and something will distract you. So with those three problems at hand, we decided to build a product that was going to focus into the completion rate of people learning online. And we started building this product. We accomplished some great goals. More than 1 million students right now registered to our website. And we're also the first company that was accepted into Y Combinator, the very important accelerator from Silicon Valley for Latin America. And I believe that was a great change in the environment, because all of a sudden we were promoting technology and really helping to build a new ecosystem into the region. And Latin America is very interesting to define it as a whole, but it's just a combination of small countries with different aspirations, and by creating and putting them all together, I feel like we can definitely make a big change in the area.
I'm so excited to be joined by such powerful and passionate entrepreneurs. So thank you all again. Can you tell me a little bit, you all have touched a little bit about your companies and your programs, but can you tell me what your program looks like, how many students you have, who do you really serve? And looking at the equity piece, how do you kind of meet those learners where they are? Maybe they're not as technically oriented, but you're funneling them into technical jobs. So let's start with Fereshteh.
Sure. Well, Code to Inspire is a 1-year after-school program. I founded it in January 2015 here as a registered 501c3 non-for-profit in the U.S. The goal is really on 3 main important pillars. First, to provide a safe and secure educational environment for girls and women in Afghanistan. Second, the school is for free. We offer the school because a lot of the girls come from different financial backgrounds that they cannot afford extracurricular activities. Third, which is the most important pillar of the work, what kind of technical skills we teach these young ladies, that it will translate either into employment opportunities within the community in Afghanistan, or it can be entrepreneurial opportunities for them to create their own startups, or we can outsource projects to them from outside of Afghanistan. So far, we've educated about 200 female students in our coding classes, like web development, web development, game design, mobile application, and also graphic design. We have only one location right now, which is in Herat, a city in west of Afghanistan, and the classes are all in person. In case of the target group, well, we do target only girls and women, which are the age range is 15 to 25 years old. Some of them come from different financial backgrounds and educational backgrounds. We had students that they never touched a computer, they've never been online, they never even have access to basic phone, so they were generally offline, and they don't have like a basic knowledge of even English language. We also had students who didn't have the financial privilege to have even laptop at home while studying in our school, or internet to practice. Or we had students that they couldn't even pay for the commute to come to the school. So these are the students that we were working with. And for us to create such an environment that they felt welcome and accepted, and raise their voice and give them equal resources like laptops and internet, even tell them to take it home and rent it to work from home, was really important. And even something very simple as when it's very cold in winter, we hit the school so it's warm, and when it's very hot, because a lot of them don't have that luxury at home, or even free refreshments and snacks. So these are like the things that we took to considerations to create such an environment that's very open and inclusive to all those women, so that they feel comfortable, but also feel that they can translate those educational opportunities into employment opportunities as well.
I'm so excited to dive in a little bit about those employment opportunities too, because I think that's such an important link, but incredible to hear how you're taking them from A to Z. Amadou.
Right, so we're really a bit different than Fereshteh, sorry, in a sense where we're a for-profit organization. We're essentially a marketplace first. So we don't even use the term student per se, we use the term talent. And most of our guys and girls, they are sort of have to have certain kinds of skills before they join us, or even degree. So you have to have a computer science degree, or maybe a math degree, or STEM in general, bachelor degree, or you have worked for a company for a year or two, or you are someone who have a very special skill, and we can upskill you very quickly. So our model is to upskill very quickly for job opportunities. So we're not your sort of the coding school that teach you the basics, but we're more on, how can we get you from after we finish training you, be productive right away for jobs. So in that sense, we've graduated over 700 people into our program for the past 3.5 years. It's a huge funnel, but we only keep those who are actually employable in a sense. And we're planning to reach 5,000 in the next 3 to 4 years. One of the things we're also looking at doing is go online in terms of our training, because our training is very sort of, before COVID, was very face-to-face, hands-on, because we want to prepare you for the real world. Now we realize, okay, this may not be the way we're thinking about it. So we build in a new platform similar to Christians that would have a lot more people being able to pick, products in terms of courses and stuff designed for them, and then follow career path in that matter. So that's for us, for our training model.
And I love the ambitious goal and scaling. And I'd love to hear from Christian in terms of the online model, a little bit about that scale and how many students you're serving and what your different programs look like.
It's actually interesting when I heard those the stories here in the panel, because we actually started teaching people in classrooms. The first version of Platzi was, we would get a classroom all over in several countries in Latin America, and we will teach them HTML5, Photoshop, certain tools that you needed to really get into the digital world. And I remember one day we were in Mexico City, and all of a sudden I was listening to different accents. Mexico, it's a very big country. And I started asking where they were from. And I realized that everyone flew that day to attend that event. And it got me thinking, like, why don't we use platforms online? This was in 2012. So we set up to build a platform. We looked at several LMS that were available. And then we started building the product with our own students. It was actually community-based. Our student right now, it's someone who probably had to drop out of school or is ready to go to college to get some college education, but probably don't have the means or the time to really get that education. So the students is a little bit older at some point, and that's the point where we believe that we can actually help them focus their careers. Other people come with degrees, comes with a profession. They probably have 4 or 5 years of experience, and they really want to learn tech. I believe that those profiles, similar to what Amadou is doing, are great profiles because they really mixed certain abilities into the market. We also are doing a big effort into trying to have the demographics, have as many men and as many women in the environment. And this is also a big challenge, as it is everywhere in the world. In Latin America, definitely the technical profession was more focused into the male perspective. So we're trying to change that and to address that, not only with our teachers, but with our executives and with the team that is building Platzi.
And I was going to get into gender equity, but I just want to hear quickly from Eleanor for her to explain a little bit about her model, the students that she serves, and then we'll jump into gender equity. So I think it's a really important point.
Sounds good. So we teach explicitly adult learners. So almost everyone who's in our programs is over 25. Most everyone has some work experience, but usually not work experience in a computer-based or office job. And we teach low-code skills. So it's not a full-stack web development program. It's around using digital marketing platforms, the Unity platform, data analytics platforms, and Salesforce platforms like that. Our programs are fully online and distributed across the country. Our first year of operating was really this last 12 months, and we served about 3,000 students in our first 12 months. And maybe quickly answering your question on accessibility, we think about reaching learners where they are in 3 ways. Of our promise to learners is that we're building and providing to them the most affordable, efficient, and accessible pathway to their first $50,000 and above job. And for us, efficiency is partially about making sure that we don't require anything of them that's not required to get that first job. Affordability is clear. Our programs are federal financial aid eligible and come at a much lower price point than a traditional college degree would. And then accessibility is to the technology. We actually virtually host all these software platforms on virtual machines so that our students really have to have minimum technical requirements, minimum laptop requirements, minimum Wi-Fi requirements. You can do this in a McDonald's on a Chromebook. And the format, as well as the learning design, is really designed specifically for this audience. A lot of reinforcement, similar themes to what I've heard from Christian and others about, our learners just block off an hour at night where this is their chance to get to learn this. They don't have time to set technology up and deal with connection issues and all the other hassles in the way. They just have that time, and they need to make sure they're spending it well and progressing towards their career. So similar goals there too.
Really meeting learners where they are. It's so powerful. So Christian and Amadou and Fereshteh have really touched a little bit about gender equity in tech and mitigating the gender gap of tech professionals. I'd love to hear what's working. Why is it important to have this representation in the industry? I'll start with Amadou.
Right. So for us, it's actually quite obvious because Ethiopia is one of the few African countries where 30% of women will be in STEM. If you go to any class that teaches engineering and science, I don't know what it is about Ethiopia, 30% is always women. So when we started doing our training model, a lot of the people that were actually joining were women. And that went so clear to everyone that we actually got a couple of funding from IFC, the World Bank. The World Bank cares very much about certain countries like Ethiopia, and they wanted us to train a lot more engineers or women. So they funded us to train 250 women engineers, and they're doing it again. So that's really what's happening in Ethiopia. So the importance is very obvious for us internally. What we've noticed is the sense of, because we're a marketplace, we have freelancers. And with freelancers, you have a sense of responsibility, right, to your customer, to the company that the brokerage you, and so on and so forth. We've seen that women have certain kind of behavior that they will mess up less on the job than a man will do in a freelance market. That's just a pattern we've seen. If you look at a women software engineer too, because I work with a lot of them in the US and in Africa, their code is a little cleaner than men code. They're a little bit more asking extra questions. And finally, the first coder in the world was a woman, Ada. She was a programmer. So there's in my head, if I had 5,000 engineers who were all women in my platform, I'd gladly take it, and I'll step down and even let a woman be a CEO to run this company. Because I think that they have additional skills that really, this is the data we're looking at. I'm not just saying that just because you're a majority of women here, and me and Christians are the minority, but it's just the data we've seen. You look at any woman Git account, which is where the code is stored, it's clean. Commenting is there, all that stuff. So I'll leave it to that. So it's very important for us to have more women join our program. And we're doing that with the help of organization funding us.
Fereshteh, your whole organization is around bringing women into game design, game development, and technical careers. So I'd love to hear your perspective and the games that they're building too, specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for us, when you say about representation, I think the most important thing is creating role models in a community, in a country that there's not a lot of role models, especially in technology, and there's a lack of awareness. But also, I think for us, we are planting a seed that it's not only about educating the women in those areas, but it's also about changing the perspective of the community towards women in workforce and education. So giving you an example about the game, recently our students created a game called Afghan Hero Girl Game, and they use Unity technology as the engine to create the game. And the idea was that when they were brainstorming, they said, well, we're tired of playing games that the men are superhero, and also we can't relate to those games because it doesn't show us anything about our culture. So they said, well, how about creating a superhero that's a girl wearing traditional outfit of Afghanistan, and she's going through different obstacles and past the stages in a way that is real for women in Afghanistan daily, faced with challenges and overcome that. So when they created that game and we uploaded it, it was also unbelievable for us to see the amount of feedback. The game got viral in Afghanistan, thousands of downloads, hundreds of comments, and they were mainly men who commenting and encouraging the girls about, how about creating the next level of the game, or can you make this or make that happen? So to see that the perspective of the community kind of shifted, and they see that there's a value in case of investing in women's education was really important for us. And also just to see the kids, the girls, that they play the game and they're so happy to see someone that represent them and they can resonate to that. It was very eye-opening for us as well. But also in case of, I think, the representation in the family and raising their voice and be a decision maker in the family is very important. And we do have a lot of inspiring stories of the girls that they changed the narrative of the community. And I think I can cover that in the next question as well. But like, it's very important to know that like by investing on the girls' education and providing equal resources, they actually can change the whole narrative of not only the community that they live in, but also more further than the country as well.
It's a super powerful segue into jobs, because I know a lot of these women have actually been employed and their incomes have, tripled in comparison to even their families. So I'd love to go back to you and just touch on the topic of job placement and what the outcome is for these students, where they end up, and hear about their income.
Absolutely. Well, 60% of our graduates, with the data we had, they found actually job within the community and they got hired in coding and design. We outsourced 20 projects from US worth of $20,000. And these are the students that they never get paid in their life or didn't have a job first. And they're getting paid more than the average income monthly salary in Afghanistan, which is $150 or $200. So they make double or triple than the men now in the family. We have actually 20% of our graduates that they created their own startups and they raise funds for that. So to see that, that all of a sudden this girl that they didn't think that like she is a voice in the family, can bring income to the family, now make double or triple than the family member. It was very eye-opening for us because we've received calls from fathers, brothers, husbands, or even relatives of the girls in our schools that they were asking, do you have more openings? How we can like enroll more girls in our family to your school? Because now they see that like it's not about just the girl going to school. It's about how you convert those, education into opportunities for income that they can also help the family as well.
Mm-hmm. That transition to economic opportunity is so pivotal. Eleanor, I know you also have a really unique model in terms of how you're working with hiring managers to switch their mindset around non-traditional talent. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, when it comes to getting our students out of our programs and into jobs, there's two key aspects of it. One is making sure they have the right skills, and then the other is making sure they have the right skill signal that an employer will actually interview them. And so we've largely seen, particularly in the US market, that there's been an over-credentialing trend where employers don't have a way of having a signal that they can look for in the market to know who has the full package of digital marketing skills, who has the full package of data analytics skills for an entry-level role. And so instead, employers are anchored on a college degree, which is kind of a terrible proxy, but it's usually just a proxy for this person can figure it out on the job faster than someone who doesn't have a college degree. And then the other proxy is just, have they actually done this job before? And so it ends up just bidding up the cost of labor for those jobs and then cuts out everyone out of the labor market who hasn't had that job before and doesn't have a college degree. And so for us, we're trying to solve both of those problems where our students graduate with a credential from our college partners. And then our kind of secret sauce, I guess, for what it's worth, is we work with staffing agencies and job boards and large placement agencies where they vet and review all of our curriculum and really know that any student that comes through our pastoring program in data analytics has this set of skills at this competency level. We can give them a rubric essentially of what they're ready to do on the job. And so they get fast-tracked to an interview. Individual hiring managers, it's much harder to break that practice and getting them to actually consider individuals who don't have some of the traditional signals or don't have that work experience. And that work experience is for most individuals the blocker for them to really get into their first good job. And so our first way of tackling this is through some of these large-scale agencies that realize that there is a talent gap. And if they don't start to think more creatively around, proxies for experience, proxies for a college degree, then they're never going to place these individuals. So that's our approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, rethinking the whole model. Christian, you're having an online program. How do you think about job placement for your students? Do you help in this area, and where do they mostly end up?
It's actually super important for us to help them with placements. And what we did is we have a lot of content online. The platform has several schools where you can learn design, where you can learn to program, where you can learn even finance. And once you finish some of those school programs, the top students, we're actually selecting the top 1% of all our students into a program called Platzi Master, which is basically a 3-year program where we are basically helping students to find job opportunities. We give them mentorships. We have one mentor per 10 students, and they will gonna accompany you for those 3 years. And then we place them. For the placement, we are partners with a lot of startups, mostly in Latin America, who are looking for local talent to develop their products, their business, their products. And so far, it's working. In the first year of this program, people are doing 3x more income. And very similar to what Fereshteh said, we're also seeing all these stories. People who went from earning $300, $400 as a junior developer, going through the program, and all of a sudden bringing $1,500, $2,000 to their households. That's life changing when you really look at those numbers. Families are evolving, and we're super happy. And something important also is in Latin America, you have all these different markets. One story that I really like to share is about Venezuela. Venezuela was one of our biggest markets in Platzi. It still is. They really follow our content, but unfortunately, because of the locks that the country has, people cannot really access online education or even pay for it right now. So we created a scholarship for 1,000 people per year, and we just got exciting stories from them. 20 people right now in the company are from Venezuela, and half of them were sponsored. We gave them a scholarship 3 years ago. So not only we teach them technology, we change the path of their lives, and some of them move to our offices in both Mexico or Colombia. So it's so powerful how education can really transform lives and really impact all these countries that are affected by political matters right now.
Absolutely, and how neat that you're actually hiring them at Platzi. So really talking the talk and walking the walk. Amadou, your whole model is around staffing in agencies. So I'd love to hear from you about how that works in terms of job placement in your region.
Right. So we have a very sort of interesting model where we're pivoting as we go along. One of it is more towards targeting the big enterprise in Africa. So there's a flood of interest in Africa for multinationals who want to have operation in Africa. And the biggest challenge they've faced past 10, 20 years is the fact that they keep on exporting expat into country to do the work. But now, with some of the economic downturn and, things that people reshuffling their budget, and they always wanted to get more of a contextual talent, someone who understands the reality of the field. That is a shift where you have some of these multinationals who are saying, well, which company is one of the best talent company in Africa or in country. So it gives us an opportunity now to really sort of be, at least in some of these countries, be the reference point for talent placement. Then you also have what I like to call liquidity, which is what Christian was referring to, the startups and the SMEs, the small businesses. They're the one that really they can scale our model. The enterprise, even if you have 20, 30, you may generate maybe $10, $20 million, but you won't be $1 billion company or $13 billion company like Unity, right? You have to have a lot more liquidity and different kinds of clients to come in. So we are looking at the entire ecosystem in startups in Africa, which has grown in the past 3 years, over 300 to 400%. A lot of companies are being funded in Africa. We're looking at the small businesses such as banks, who are, need to upgrade their system, need to be on a digital transformation wave. So it's a tremendous opportunity from the demand side from our talent. The only problem I have is I don't have enough talent. So we're playing catch up because this came about last year or so. We've done everything inbound at first. Now we need to do outbound, but for that, we also need to have enough talent in that regard. Anything from even game developers. We've been asked for game developers, and this is why we have the exciting partnership with Unity, right? Just figure out how can we turn more game developers in Africa to work for these, because that's one of the particular industry that's literally untapped in Africa, gaming and animation. Untapped. We're in a continent of 1 billion and almost 1.5 billion, different nationalities, different things. It's a huge opportunity. So I am playing catch up in terms of trying to build as many talents as possible. And my magic number is 5,000 in the next 2 to 4 years to be able to fulfill that demand.
Thanks, Amadou. I'm seeing that we have a question in from the audience. It is around AI and algorithm biases. Are they creating more social exclusions? And is there anything such as a forum for AI ethics or digital inclusions? Christian.
I actually want to mention something over there. I recently was there's this documentary, Code Bias, which really got me thinking, and it's actually how the U.S. is dealing with some of the tech companies not recognizing certain demographics into their tech. And the more I was listening to the documentary, I started thinking to myself, like, wow, it's not only a thing of color. It also has to do with so many nationalities, so many cultures. We really need to bring representation into the tech world from so many nationalities. I see it as a challenge for myself. I really need people from Central America, South America, from Brazil. We just think so differently. And if we don't really bring tech professionals who know how to include internationalization and really get some of the specifics from their markets, the tools are never going to really represent what our nations need. So I don't know. It got me super excited after. At first, I was sad, like, oh my God, this is happening. We have to fight it. But then it was like, there's this huge opportunity. We really need to teach people ethics more than everything. And it reminded me. I studied philosophy at some point of my career, and some of the ethics concepts that I got there, I use it on a daily basis. And usually in tech, at least in Latin America, no one really makes that join. It's just like, oh, it's tech, so it's about algorithms and building code and everything, and philosophy and everything. No, that's another. That's humanities. So I also want to kill that split that it's very, very common in the region.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the soft skills is a critical piece too. And I know, and you all are kind of addressing that as well. Particularly Eleanor has a whole sort of pathway around the soft skills. Eleanor, do you want to comment on how you think about this?
Sure. Yeah, I think that, most of the work that we're doing, I've personally led a few diversity hiring initiatives around like de-biasing your practices. And if you look at most of the best practices, a lot of it is just around having like a rigorous rubric and actually like knowing what you're solving for, and not just going off the cuff of like who you enjoyed and who you wanted to hang out with on an airplane, or like being stuck in an airport. And so I think that what we're really trying to do is make sure that the path is really clear, and that you don't have to spend all of your effort and energy on figuring out what are you supposed to learn, where do you find the job, what skills do you need, and you can put all of your mental energy into just learning those things. And so, that's not really an algorithm answer to this. It's more about reducing all the noise, because to some extent, I think that the algorithm in society is like, the LinkedIn platform where you get jobs based on who you can connect with and who people know. And if we can make it more clear for someone, how do you get to where you're trying to go? I think that's a big aspect, and that more and more people can actually see that, even an example, a friend of mine is hiring a sales engineer role, which makes it sound like it's a very technical job. They can't find any women to apply for this role at all. And, I took their test to see like how technical it was. It's not technical at all. Like I'm not that technical and I could pass it, but I would never apply for that job because it says engineer in the title. And so there's just so many ways in which we set up the system, that there's a lot of code that's built into our language and the way that we talk about career paths and the way that information is distributed, that's to me the algorithm that we're trying to break, and making that a lot more transparent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think LinkedIn did an interesting study that you're 9 times more likely to get a job through a referral. So reducing that barrier is a key piece. So we're just a few minutes left. I want to do kind of a lightning style round. I've avoided talking about COVID, but Obviously this is a big piece that we're all experiencing. And it's kind of just a little bit maybe more distant. So involved. What's the one thing that people can do? Oh, I think I was experiencing slow internet. Fereshteh, start us off.
Sure. Well, to me, I think that I really would love to, for the people who see this talk, they change their perspective about Afghanistan, because I think that people always think Afghanistan is a war zone and there's like a lot of great things in their mind when they think about Afghanistan. So I would love for them to think about Afghanistan, about the work we do and the work that our girls do. And I always like to read the poems from Rumi. He's a 13th Persian poet who says that where there is ruin, there is hope for a treasure. And I think it resembles a lot with me being born as a refugee and the war in Afghanistan. And I think that from the shattered lives of refugees and a nation that went through war, you can find treasure if you know where to find it. And for me, those treasures are the girls and investing in their education so that they will enable us to create an Afghanistan where there wouldn't be any digital, economic, wage divide or gender divide for women, and they would be the front. There would be the people who can create peace in Afghanistan as well.
Thanks, Fereshteh. Christian?
It's fascinating because when I started building Platzi and when I actually started building online education, I would have never figured that there was going to be one time in my life where everything was going to happen online. I never even considered that. I was always saying it's like, oh, we're going to do part of the formula, but education, it has a lot of variety and there's so many models and they complement each other. We need the campuses and we need that. So when COVID actually hit, even for me, it was about reframing, like, oh, what if I cannot do the activities that I do, the events, the conference, we did a lot of pair programming. We would set up 2 students to meet and do pair programming by themselves. So how could we evolve that over there? And at the end, just remember that society as a whole into online education. That's what happened, basically. We had some platforms, we had some skills, we have been doing a lot of research into online education, but for the majority in the world, online education, you mean when we had to go into Zoom and had a class just like we did it before? So now there's an opinion formulated across all nations about what online education is. Before it was about like, I might try it or not. Now it's like, I tried it. And I either had great experiences or bad experiences. So the world just changed. We're gonna have to fight more into changing the mindset of people who believe that online experience was a bad experience for them. And for people who tried it and realized of all the advantages, commuting, connecting with your peers, or just having access to more content more quickly, let's just push it forward. So the world changed, and I am pretty sure that from now on, we're gonna see the world before COVID and post-COVID in the edtech world. That's the only way how we're gonna describe what happened.